I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I just wanted to celebrate. I didn't care anymore about what other people would think. I didn't care if people would look down upon, and which sounds silly. Nobody would look down upon it. But in my mind,
those are the things we tell ourselves.
We tell ourselves. And looking back now, I mean, I can't change anything, nor would I. But, allowing people in on that journey could have helped.
Welcome back to the No Fit Too Small podcast. My name is Jackie Selsky. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at No Fit Too Small. And we have a really special guest joining us today for Infertility Awareness Week. Her name is Kelsey Ruwe. And of course, I am joined by the lovely Robin Boudreau.
Thank you for having us, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I know, Kelsey, you made quite the drive to be here. So tell us where you're from.
Yeah, so I live in Omaha. So it was about a 3.5 hour drive. So not too bad.
But we are so excited to be starting to have a presence in Omaha. So, and I know that our latest project there, which is the Birthing and Bereavement Suite that we are in the process of building with Nebraska Medicine, is really kind of how you came to know No Fit Too Small. So I thought maybe the both of you could start the conversation with just sharing how you met.
So that part's actually fascinating to me. I thought about this at dinner last night. We just met a few months ago.
Yep.
And I really do feel like I've known you a long time.
Same.
So as many know, we are building the third No Fit Too Small Birthing and Bereavement Suite at the Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. But it was at that event, the Sweet Social event, that you walked up to me.
Yeah.
And it was just a really special, surreal moment. Kelsey walked up and said, "Are you Robin?" And I said, "I am." And followed with, "Would you tell me your story?" And as I shared with you last night, it really did actually take me back. But of course, yes, I'll tell you my story. And to find out, as you'll hear in this episode, that our stories were so similar and really just 4 days apart.
Yeah. And I think the thing that day, I think I worked from home, or I wasn't in the office that day. And I heard about the event and I thought, gosh, I don't really want to come all the way back in. And something just was like, Kelsey, you have to explore whatever this foundation is. And so even walking in the doors that evening for that event, and you got to put your angel's name on this board, that was literally the first time that I put Isaac's name for anyone else to see. And so that's how I knew. I'm like, I am hooked on that. And I went upstairs, I put my pin on that I wear always. And I didn't know Robin at all. And I asked a few people, and I'm like, who's the executive director? How can I get to meet her? And then I think you probably thought I was a stalker, because I'm like, Robin, I have to know you.
That's not true.
I have to know you. And right before the event, and I know you had a million other things going on, but I did. I said, can you tell me your story? Yeah. And our stories are so similar. So there's a higher something there that I think brought us together.
Absolutely. I think we find that a lot in No Fit Too Small too. Just the people that find each other, there's an instant connection for a reason. I think we say our angels are doing some work and making that happen and bringing us together.
The other thing I would say, though, it doesn't matter how many times I've told the story. The reality is, in that moment when you asked if I would share the story, even I, after 12 years, have to stand there. Where do I start?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I don't know your story. I don't know if they're going to be similar or different, if you even have a story. But the tears in your eyes told me that you did.
Yeah.
So I guess I would just want everybody to know that even having done it so many times for so many years, I had to take a breath and say, okay, we're just going to go right into this story.
And I think I am new at it. And so I think you told me your story, and then I said, can I share you mine? And same, I think that's probably the second or third time openly to someone. And I was very grateful for that opportunity. Yeah.
I was going to ask, how did it feel?
It's, for me, freeing, really hard. I think it kind of pulls me back into everything that we went through. But when you share it with someone who understands, or in the environment that it's normalized a little bit, it really helps you kind of work through everything, and you're not alone. And so now I love sharing my story as for anyone. So for this podcast, I hope it reaches people, that it makes a difference.
Oh, it will.
Yeah.
We promise. And, Robin always says that really the stories are what matter most at No Foot Too Small. Yeah. So if you feel comfortable, we would love to hear your story and really what brought you here today.
Yeah.
I'm already covered in goosebumps.
Well, it's funny. It's like, where do you begin? Where do you think about the journey that I've been on? So I'll start kind of from the beginning. My husband and I got married in 2009, and we were both nearing 30. And so we knew kind of right away we wanted to have kids, and we waited a year. And then just how naive I used to be on getting pregnant, and it just would happen, and it's just normal. So we spent about a year and nothing. And then I started diving into, when you would track your ovulation and when you would track your temperature and all of that. And I drove myself crazy doing that. So finally went to a doctor. And even then I was a little bit embarrassed. I was just embarrassed to say, man, I'm having troubles getting pregnant. And so I started with my OB, who's wonderful. And of course did some medication, and to no avail. So still didn't work after a few tries. And then we moved on to IUIs, and we did 5. And every month, and people that have gone through it know it's such a production. There's so much work, there's so much timing, there's so much medication, so many doctor's appointments, and every time just a negative pregnancy test. And so that was really, really hard. And then at that moment, my doctor said, Kelsey, you're going to have to try something different. This is not working. And didn't know what that next step was. And so did some research, and the next step was IVF. And it's a scary term. And the more research you do, and it's a lot involved. And what I didn't realize is the emotional journey with IVF. So we got with a new doctor, and we started that road. And, we did 3 more IUIs with that doctor, again, no avail. And so she's like, all right, next step is IVF. And it's a scary world. It is, your body is going through so much. You have to purchase and all this medication. You have to go in for so many appointments, and it's all based on different things, on your estrogen level, on your lining, and all of that. And so it kind of puts you in a whirlwind of being scared and vulnerable. And for me, we didn't share it with anyone. And I think
so isolating.
It's so isolating, and I don't know why. I think I was, saying it out loud sounds funny now. I think I was embarrassed or ashamed that I couldn't get pregnant, and the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. So you throw your whole self into this IVF journey, and you're like, that has to work, because I don't know what other options there are. And so we did that. And again, every morning we'd show up at the doctor's office at 6 a.m. and we would go through all of these appointments, and then I'd go to work like nothing happened. And so just carrying that with me through that was really hard. And we did keep it a little bit from family, and not because we didn't want their support, but again, it was really hard to share month after month the loss. And if I didn't have to talk about it, sometimes it wasn't real. So then we started the IVF journey, and for those that know, you do the stimming and all the needles, all the medication, and then you do the retrieval. And the first time we went through, we were very lucky. We had a ton of eggs that were great, and we would do transfers, and again, nothing stuck and nothing, and so that was really hard. And I remember after a while, I'd go to those doctor's appointments. I wouldn't say anything but cry, because I almost knew the outcome of this transfer wasn't going to turn out. And so we did that. And I think we went through about 8 or 9 transfers, and finally one stuck. We were so excited that finally we did get pregnant. And every time we transferred, we transferred 2 embryos. And one stuck. So we were very excited. But even we didn't tell anybody, because we were so nervous. It took so long to get there. So we did all the 6-week ultrasound, and then 10-week and all of that. So excited. We got to the 20-week ultrasound. And I remember, because our OB was with us throughout the whole process, he goes, why don't you come in? And I think it was December 23rd, right before Christmas. And this is off the books, but we're going to bring you in and we're going to do a scan. 3 hours later, and what was odd about, because we wanted to know if it was a boy or girl, and he couldn't figure that out. He couldn't see. And so that was a red flag for us. And he goes, guys, I'm so sorry. This never happens. I just can't see the sex of the baby. He goes, don't be alarmed. It's fine, but this is weird. And it's 3 hours.
Wow.
And so fast forward, we came in, and it was January 2nd, where we officially came in for our 20-week. And I remember it was at the end of the day, and, the ultrasound tech is chatting you up and everything's great. And then I just remember she looked at the screen and then she tilted it away, and the conversation just kind of abruptly stopped. And you just know, I think you just know that something on the screen wasn't right. And it was quiet. And then she started asking me questions, and I'm like, something's not right. And the doctor came in, and I could tell that he goes, well, Kelsey, we were looking at it, and it was a boy. So we did find out it was a boy. But one of his foot was going to be a club foot. So it didn't form right. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like,
that's
okay.
manageable.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. I can do that. Yeah. And, it is one of those things that's like not what you expected, but I'm like, okay. So we went home that night, and actually we were going to do a little fun thing for our friends. And I stopped to get blue cupcakes, and came home. And then right away my phone rang, and it was my OB again. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Kelsey, you need to sit down. And really, the ultrasound just kind of showed that nothing was right. Nothing with his brain had formed. His heart did not form. His lungs did not form. His genitalia, that's why it was so hard, did not descend. So that's why you couldn't see it. Both his feet were deformed, his hands, and nothing. He goes, Kelsey, nothing is right. And he goes, his body's broken. Oh. And it's one of those things where you get that call. And I think I just blacked out. I don't know what happened. And he goes, Kelsey, just take this night, talk to Chad. And I think my whole world just literally came crashing down.
How is this possible?
As fast as possible. And I just didn't think it was possible after everything we went through with the infertility and all the, things were coming back right. And he was developing. And that our whole world stopped. And so I didn't sleep at all that night. And then I think I kicked into, I got to fix this. And I called the doctor, and he got us into a specialist right away. Cause I'm like, this has got to be wrong. This can't be right. And so this can't be right. So we went to a specialist and confirmed, and actually said, and there is this and this and this. And we went to another specialist, and Kelsey, there is this and this and this. And they finally, the third specialist that we went to was, Isaac will not make it, and he is not compatible with life, Kelsey, and he's living because of you, right? And I think just knowing that that he was no longer with us, and it was so unfair, and after that, telling people, and we kept it so secret because I was so scared of this very moment. It was really hard to share our story. And I think I went for a really long time, and I just internalized all of that because I don't think people knew the IVF journey. And then losing Isaac was really hard.
And how long had that journey been for you at that point?
So up until that point, it was about 5 years of starting the infertility journey and finally getting pregnant.
Wow.
And then losing Isaac. So we lost him January 15th of 2013.
And that's the beautiful connection between you and Robin. Do you guys want to just expand on that part of it a little bit? Why that's so special?
For me, I think just meeting another mom who went through almost darn near the same thing. And I think when Robin shared her story and she gave me her date, and I said, you're not going to believe this, but I was literally the same year 4 days later, a little boy, and just sharing that connection with you at that time was meant to be.
I couldn't say it any better than that. The word I always come back to is isolating, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Our journey felt so isolating. I thought I was the only one experiencing this type of loss or devastation, right? To learn that there's nothing right with your baby, to learn that Bo didn't have a skull, that his brain was malformed, that he had clubfoot.
Yeah.
So many of the same diagnoses. Until later, and 12 years later, find out that someone else was experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time.
It's parallel worlds, really, just in two different cities.
Yes, correct. As twisted as it sounds, is such an incredible gift, right? Even though I'm finding her 12 years later, to know that I wasn't actually alone, despite feeling so alone.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't think you could have found me earlier.
No.
I don't think.
That's the other thing that's so cool about this, right? Yes. It's just,
I was not ready. I completely shut down after that. So I was very, internal before that, shut down, and I just was not ready. And I think that's the thing. I went through 3 therapists, and I 100% believe in therapy. I didn't say a word in any of those conversations because I was angry. I didn't understand why after everything we went through. And also we are at that stage of life where all of our friends were starting families, and you love them and you're so happy for them. But it's another reminder, month after month, that you can't do this, right? So that was devastating. We went through all testing, and our fertility doctor said, Kelsey, it's 1 in a million. Like, there's nothing genetic. It is literally bad luck. That was really hard to hear.
Yeah, those aren't words you want to hear.
No, but there's nothing we could have done differently. It wasn't how I carried him. It would just, that's what happened. And so, we immediately after that, so I took some time to grieve, and I'm finding out years later, maybe not enough, keeps coming up. But then we started it again. And this time with the IVF journey, we could not produce any eggs. I could not produce any eggs. And part of me thought a little bit, why can't I? Am I being punished for some reason, right? With losing Isaac. And so we went through a few more rounds of that, and just not coming home to any children. It's just, man, it's a hollowing experience. And we took a break from that and went the adoption route. And we took classes. We went through 2 different adoption agencies and have the forms filled out. And we were so excited. And there was something that just said, Kelsey, we're not ready yet. And I think adoption's a beautiful process. I just knew in my heart, we're not ready to go that route yet. So we did a few more rounds. And finally, my doctor said, Kelsey, you can't use your own eggs for this. Like, something, you're not producing it. And so at that moment, we had to decide, and we did. And we decided to use a donor egg, a donor for that. And that was another grieving journey where I had to let go of, having these children that had my DNA. And that's a whole nother story. It's kind of just, they are my children. I carried them. But it's getting over that kind of stigma of doing that. And it was anonymous. And I can tell you that person's an angel. I wish I could meet her, but so we did go through that route, and it was a beautiful experience. We had a lot of embryos to work with. And again, though, we went through a couple of transfers. It didn't work. And finally, it did. And we were so excited. And I have a beautiful 9-year-old girl named Everly.
Oh, beautiful name.
Yeah, Everly James. James for the book of James. And just every hard gift is from above. Every beautiful gift's from above. And so we had Everly. And a couple years later, the doctor's like, Kelsey, don't count on getting pregnant again. And but let's do another transfer. And so we transferred 2, as we always did, and both took. And so we have beautiful twins. They are 7, and they're boy-girl twins.
Oh, fun.
Noah and Vivian. And what's beautiful about that, and I think about it a lot, is they are from the same batch, if you will. And so what's unique for me is to learn, like, Everly and Noah could have been a twin. Or Vivian could have been born first. And so I really think God has had his hand in all of this. And just having them and being...
That is just wild.
It is wild. And
it's wild.
And I think about it, again, a lot on my 3 kiddos. And now, so for a long time, I didn't share that story either, that we had to go the donor route. And again, that little bit, that shame and that, of having to go that route to have children. And I remember when they were first born, a lot of people would say, they don't look like you, Kelsey. And, which was really hard for me because I and I brought out baby pictures to be like, yeah, yes, they do. I was trying to make it work, which is funny now because a lot of people
look at this. We're basically twins.
Totally.
I don't look anything like one of my parents.
Okay,
so I get that all that people think my dad and I are on a date sometimes. It's crazy. So sometimes that just happens genetically. You know, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I think one of my hopes for this podcast is that by sharing these stories, we help people who maybe haven't experienced this understand what their words do.
Yes.
And the impact of what they say, and to just maybe pause a little bit more before we speak. You know, I think not that that's a wrong thing to say,
right?
But just to be more mindful of everybody has a different journey, and families and motherhood and fatherhood look different. Very different for every family. And so I think it's very brave of you to share what those words meant, and even your want for them to look like you. And, I'm thinking about how maybe that's the beautiful gift in this, and your donor being anonymous, but you kind of get to know her through them, right? Like there's elements that are known, maybe unspoken, but I think that's a beautiful gift too.
I do too. And, I'll even have people tell me, my oldest daughter looks like me, or my youngest daughter has my attitude or my personality. And again, I think for so long, I didn't want to share that story because, and again, I was embarrassed. And now I'm like, I would love for the world to know just the journey, but going that route with that donor egg, it was a beautiful process. And I'm so thankful that that's where our journey kind of led us to. And again, to be their mom and go through all that, like long journey to get there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance you'll ever meet her?
I would love to. I would, our fertility doctor said you can write a letter, and, if we still have her correct address, I would absolutely love it, because I don't think she has any idea of what she gave me.
Absolutely not.
Or our family, or, and again, I think the beginning of this process, I was just so angry, I think a little bit with God, like why we had to do this. And he was up there probably laughing a little bit because he knew, and he knew this was how it was going to end, and, getting introduced to her. And so someday I would love that. Somehow.
I would love that for you.
Yes. Agreed.
Let's share this podcast episode, share a link.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
And hope maybe someday she'll join you on that couch.
That would be,
oh my gosh,
incredible. That would be incredible.
That would be amazing. Her like generosity and going through the process is not easy. And what she had to do that for a mom to be able to have children, like it's just the ultimate act of love and selflessness. So
yeah, beautiful. I want to touch a little bit on the shame.
Yeah.
That you've brought up quite a few times in your journey. I think that is a feeling that every mom in our community has felt at some part. What do you think it was that helped you come to a place where you knew you deserved to not carry that anymore?
That's a really great question. I think for so long, I kept carrying just the weight of my IVF journey. Again, a lot of people didn't realize it, but then also Isaac. And I didn't say his name, and didn't, celebrate him. I didn't tell our children about their older brother, and I think it kept weighing on me. And finally I'm like, I'm ready to kind of let down this weight, and I want to celebrate. I'm to the spot where I can look at the journey and not be so in a place that for me, I just couldn't even talk about it. I couldn't have a conversation. I couldn't. And I think it finally got to being introduced to different people, but listening to different stories. And then realizing for me, it's almost like I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I just wanted to celebrate. I didn't care anymore about what other people would think. I didn't care if people would look down upon, and which sounds silly. Nobody would look down upon it. But in my mind,
those are the things we tell ourselves.
We tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. And looking back now, I mean, I can't change anything, nor would I. But, allowing people in on that journey could have helped, and just support you. And people want to help you. People want to support you. They may not always know what to say. And that's the one thing I almost feel like I was helping them, because month after month, and I've been better at this too. Like when you ask a young couple, like, oh, when are you having kids? Or how come you're not having kids? And you have to say, oh, God's timing, not knowing I'm 5 years in on an infertility journey. I think being careful what you say is so important. But I think maybe it was Isaac, working through and kind of saying, Mom, like you need to share this story, and I'm going to help you. And I'm going to help you step out. And so even telling my family this whole story and what we went through, and that was my first step, and then friends and all of that. So
remind me, I know you shared this with me that night even. Wasn't it just 2 months before we met that you had done a lot of this work?
Yeah. So it was a little bit longer. It was probably a year before that, where finally even told my parents that, like, the donor egg. And I hadn't, and again, not because they're wonderful and supportive. It's just, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't let that part of me, and for people to look at my children and think, oh, but you're not their mom, which I know is not the case. And that's why I want to bring normalization to this and remove the stigma of going that route to have children.
What has changed since your family has known?
I don't know if anything. I think the change has been more with me.
Yeah.
And for them, I think they're like, Kelsey, you could have told us earlier, but I'm so happy that you did. Yeah. And for me, everything has changed. Everything has changed from sharing my story. And we did an event at Carson, which is where I work, about mental health. And we brought in a couple psychiatrists, and then we did a mental health panel, which was a huge catalyst for me. And we had a few people up in front of the entire organization, and they asked me ahead of time, like, Kelsey, would you want to share your story? And I said, yes.
Wow.
And so, and I didn't say all of it. Like, I didn't say all of it as I've done now, but I did talk about the IVF, and I said, share your story. And after that, I had a couple people reach out to me from where I work and say, can you sit and have coffee with me? I had a couple men that I work with reach out and say, can you talk to my wife? Because we're going through this, and or hey, we just went through a miscarriage, or so it just opens up the conversation for people to be real, and being real in the workplace. And that was a really big part for me, a step for me in the right direction. And now, anytime I hear about it, I'm like, I'm here if you want to talk. I get it if you're not in that space, but I would love to share my story, and I'd love to hear yours. And that just connects two people. And so
I had full body chills when you were telling me about the connections made, and the courage that you gifted other families.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I hope that, and again, I think some people are really public with their IVF journey, which is great. Just for people that maybe aren't, or, just want someone to talk to, that's where I was hoping to reach, is just having those one-on-one conversations or sharing. And then that allowed me, I think, to share Isaac and just grieving him. And I feel like I grieved him when we lost him. And then it's like I had to grieve him all over again, because now I was sharing his story. And now I love to share it, and I love to talk about him and write his name. So
I love that. What are some ways maybe you and your family have started to, make traditions or speak his name at home or celebrate him? Do you have any unique ways that you've incorporated that into your life?
So recently is when we told our children. So I would say a few months ago, and it was one day I woke up and I wear a necklace and it has.
I was going to say, are you going to tell the story of the necklace?
I have a necklace that has an eye on it for Isaac. And actually another friend of mine who went through the same thing, they lost their son, Noah, at 15 weeks. And so when I shared my story, like she shared her story. And so when she was going through that, we were talking a lot. And one day she came up to me and she goes, here's a necklace for you. And it had an eye on it. And I just have not taken it off since. Wow. So I think it's been 2 or 3 years. And so I wear it all the time. And my children ask me, what does the I stand for? And for a while I wasn't ready. It means I love you. It means, whatever I said.
It can still mean all of those things. It can mean
all of those things.
That's great.
And my oldest daughter, she goes, Mom, but what does it mean? Like, what does it mean? Because
she's on to you.
She's on to me. And I have bracelets with my kids' names. I have their initials on another necklace. And so one day at dinner, my husband and we sat down and I was a blubbering mess. And I said, I need to tell you the story about your older brother, and told them about Isaac. And, they're 7 and 9. And so I think they understand, but I think my youngest Noah, he goes, is he in heaven? Is he in heaven with Lucy? We have a yellow lab who we adore. That was key to getting me through all this at the time. She was there when I was pregnant, and then we lost Lucy. But I said, you're right, buddy. Like Lucy and Isaac are up in heaven, and we talked about it. And so now they'll say, like, you have 4 children, Mom, and our older brother. And what would Isaac be doing now? Would he be playing sports? And
wow.
So it's just become more normal, which is great. And the other day we were talking about something, and my oldest daughter asked me, like, she knows I'm on this podcast. And she's like, are you going to talk about, my brother? And I said, yeah, and you, And so it's just the conversation. I don't have to hide it. We can celebrate it. I have blue butterflies all over the house, and now they know why. So they understand that.
Did you catch the beautiful ownership she's also taking? Right? Are you going to talk about my brother?
Yeah. And that's where I want them to know their story. Cause I remember, when they're first born, I'm like, I hope they never find out they're from a donor. And I hope they and now I want to share that story with them someday. And I want them to know everything we went through to bring them here and to have them. And it was, it's a lot. And then it ends in this way, and it was all meant to be.
To be wanted and chosen in the way that those kiddos are they're going to live their lives differently, knowing that, and have a different presence in the world because of everything that you've had the courage to share with them. And I think that's amazing. Yeah. We always talk about how one of the most powerful things we're doing at No Foot Too Small is the way we're raising the next generation to just be more empathetic and more compassionate in the way they navigate life, and that life is hard and there's loss and there's great happiness at the same time, and that all of those things can coexist. And so you are leading that charge in the way that you're being so vulnerable and open with them. And I applaud you for that, because that's the legacy here. That's also Isaac's legacy, is leaving them with just a new sense of how to love. That's beautiful. Well, I would love to know, we have a lot of families probably listening who are going through a similar journey, and maybe, on the other side of it like you are, or maybe really in the thick of it right now, or just getting started, or afraid to start. What advice would you share with them?
Yeah. So I remember when I first started this, I was kind of a maniac on doing research. So I would Google everything. I would try to find this community. I would try to find chat groups. I would try to find people that were going through the IVF journey, and what medication are you on, or what cycle are you, how are you approaching it? And I would hold on to these chat groups because they're all I had to I'm not alone. And yes, what they're going through, I'm going through the same thing, and what their doctor said, my doctor said. And so but nobody I knew in person. And so I would kind of, again, go to those chat groups, never posting, just trying to understand what other people are going through. And so I would love, even when people are starting that journey, reach out to people. And I would say that people that have gone through it are such a help for me. I had a coworker when I first started that had gone through this journey, and she helped me kind of say, hey, Kelsey, yep, this is what this process looks like. This is what the next step would be. And for me, I just wanted something to hold on to, something normal. Because again, this process emotionally, it can just go from a high to a low in the same second. And there's not really great resources because everyone's different. Everyone approaches a little bit differently. Each doctor does it a different way. But I would say, especially this community is so important for people to go through it. For me, talk to a therapist maybe going through it. I remember after the fact, I reached out to my fertility doctor because we joke. I mean, I was with her for how many years? And she, at the end of it, I just thanked her and I called her and I said one thing, like matching people up that are going through this with therapy or with a support group. And that's what she said, if you want to start a support group for this. And then shortly after meeting Robin and then No Fit Too Small, I think that's the key to all of this is having a group to go through it with, to ask questions and just not feel alone. And I think women and men go through it differently. And I think for me, I had my husband to go through it, but it was very different. Like it was me having to take the medication, go through the changes. It was my body that wasn't producing. And so you have to connect with people that understand that and can help you through that. So I would say reach out. I know I'm on the community chat on the Facebook page, and just reaching out to have a cup of coffee with somebody is so helpful, or on the phone just to normalize it.
Well, Allie, our director of family support, jokes about this all the time. She wants her business card to read matchmaker. Yeah, yes. But that is one of the things we believe in so strongly at No Fit Too Small, and she does a beautiful job of this, is really connecting folks within our community to each other who have a similar story.
Yes.
Because there is power in that validation, right? And just being led by somebody who's further down the path to say, this is what you can expect. So it's not quite so scary.
Yeah. And I think that was a lot for me. Again, I was so reluctant to open up and face that. But I think knowing people that have gone through it and can walk you through it. And here's what I did. And, I had a friend, we joke, and you had to put, a shot in your behind. And it's like, oh, you put the ice pack on and this is how you do it. And did you do it yourself? And it is the ugly, raw truth of what that process looks like. And if you can share that with somebody and calling for test results and calling for blood results and listening and waiting. And it's just a heartbreaking journey. And if you can share that with someone, it's, for me, it now helping others, I'm hoping that helps them get through it better.
I think what's really neat about your story is you found community by starting those conversations and reaching out, but you've also helped to grow that community by reaching back and pulling your hand behind to pull people who aren't as far along as you up to where you are. And so I think that's an important reminder for all of us too, that we have moms in our Facebook group and in our community who aren't ready to write a post or ask us to go out for coffee. And so how can we, those of us who feel ready to do that, extend that invitation and start those conversations too? So I think that's a really special reminder for our club, as we call it. Just how do we all rally behind each other in different ways and meet each other where we are? Because there is no right time. There's no wrong time. So I think that's also a beautiful lesson in your story, is that there's nothing wrong with the timing of it all. It happened in the way it was supposed to happen for you.
I mean, the two of us are a perfect example of this, right? I was sharing Bo's story 2 days after delivering him, right?
Yeah.
You were almost 10 years later, a decade later, before you were ready.
Yes.
Neither one of those is better or worse.
Yep.
It is just when we felt ready to do that. And so if you're following along, that would be another message I would share to you, is there is no perfect time.
No.
There's no right or wrong. When it feels right, it's right.
Yeah. And I think even, the Facebook chats, even now I'm hesitant to post on those, but having them, I think would have been so helpful. Again, like I told you, I would search high and low for chat groups just to be a part of a group that I knew I wasn't alone. And so I would say that too, if you're not ready to post, I totally get it. 10 years. And I would be part of these, and I would see feeds and what people were saying. I wouldn't post, but I would know that, man, there are other people going out there that are going through the same thing. And I even know some people that 40, 50 years later, just the ability to put your name, your child's name somewhere to be seen. And that's where when I walked into the lobby that day and I'm like, I hesitated for a while and I like wrote his name and I'm like, that's the first time I've written his name other than my journal.
Right.
And so just
publicly,
and then sharing the story. So there's no right or wrong time. I think you'll know when you're ready. And that's why this community is so important for sharing your story.
Yeah, well, I would say thank you to Isaac for really, I think, being your champion and cheerleader behind the scenes to get you to where you are today and to be willing to sit on this couch and help make so many other families feel less alone in this journey. So I'm curious, it's one question I love to ask all of our guests. If you could say something to Isaac today, what would you say?
This is so hard.
I feel like I should have been prepared for this. I've listened to all
I almost warned you last night. And I thought,
my gosh, no, I hope I'm making you proud. And I hope you know how much that being your mama means to me. And I can feel you working through me. And you've made me a better person. And I just look at our 3 beautiful children, and Isaac, you helped bring them to our family. And just, I just really want to make you proud.
I promise you are. I think we can say that with
I have a question
certainty.
for Isaac.
Yeah.
What's that?
Have you known Bo all along? Or did you guys just meet? Right?
I think they have been conspiring this whole time.
I think maybe so.
And that's what I think when I first met you, Robin, you said Bo's putting you to work.
Yeah.
And I think that is what Isaac is doing. He's Mom, I'm going to put you to work, and not just for him, but for everyone else going through this, and all the other moms and all the other siblings that, and dads that are going through this. I think he's like, we got to go.
It's time, Mom.
It's time, and you can't keep me all to yourself, and we got to do some great work. So, yeah.
It will be the hardest work you've ever done.
Yeah.
But it will be the most meaningful work you've ever done.
And I would say the most freeing.
Absolutely.
I would say now sharing this story, just my conversations with people that I just meet or that I've known, it is on a whole different level. Yeah. And I think once you kind of open yourself up to kind of you being vulnerable, the world starts becoming that way, and you allow other people to share their story, which is why we're here.
Absolutely.
To connect. So
I think, and you just shared a story with me last night, that permission, right? Just remembering that every time we tell our story, we are healing, but we're giving somebody else permission. And it is so cool to watch that happen in them, just like I've had the chance to watch in you.
Yeah.
To be that witness is really special opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, I think I always used to think like God's timing is perfect. And we were trying to get pregnant, and I'm like, but can his timing be just
his timing
a little bit quicker?
Quite what I'm looking for.
But now I see it, and the timing of sharing his story and meeting you, and it is all perfect timing for sure.
And I can't wait to see what they have up their sleeves next, quite frankly.
Yep.
I can't wait either. I think we've teed some cool things up in this conversation. So we'll see. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining us today and sharing Isaac with us and your whole beautiful family.
Yes.
We're just
oh my gosh,
so happy to get to know you and so excited for the lessons and the encouragement that you've passed on to our community. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the No Fit Too Small podcast. If you are a family navigating pregnancy or infant loss, we would love to connect with you. please reach out at nofittoosmall.org. We want to give a special thank you, as always, to Storyline Multimedia for helping us hold space for these important conversations. And we have an extra special thank you today to Carson Wealth for sponsoring today's episode on behalf of Kelsey. So if you are wanting to learn more about our mission, if you want to get involved, again, visit nofittoosmall.org. We will catch you at the next episode.